Today we're going to be taking a look at this, an EP1 from HappyModel. Now, if you saw my first review on the ExpressLRS gear that I ordered, I got the TX from HappyModel as well as an EP1 receiver. We unboxed them, gave you a bit of a reaction, and then put them under the microscope and just had a look at what the build quality was like. Whilst we found no issues with the transmitter, unfortunately there were some issues with the receiver. We had a couple of components not soldered correctly, alongside some issues around the QFN. Now, since then, I've actually ended up having that receiver replaced, and that replacement is here. So what we're going to do today is just get this one under the microscope just to have a look at what this one is like. Now, after I put that video out, I had tons of people reach out to me and had lots of feedback that they've had no issues with the HappyModel receivers at all. I did have a few comments where people did say they had the odd faulty one, and once it was replaced, they've had no problems since. The consensus I seem to have gathered from the feedback is if you get a good one, it's absolutely fine, and for the most part, most of them are. However, if you do get a bad one, you just get it replaced, and then you're all good to go. Anyways, what we'll do is we'll take a closer look at this one, we'll get it under the microscope, and we'll also have a look at that regulator as well to make sure it has got the correct regulator on board, because some of these have shipped with the wrong regulator, and we'll talk about that as we go through it as well. Okay, so to open it up first of all, now just to explain the regulator thing whilst I'm doing this, there has been a batch of regulators put on some HappyModel receivers that are rated wrong. The original regulator should be rated at 300 milliamps, but unfortunately some have gone out rated at 150 milliamps. This causes issue with the receiver not booting up properly, and then you get issues with it just not wanting to play ball. When it's working, it seems to work absolutely fine, but the issues tend to be around it not wanting to power up, and that has been related to how the boot sequence is on the SoCs, and that has affected how much current draw. Now, there has actually been a firmware update from ExpressLRS to work around this issue. What that firmware does is, rather than fix the problem, is just change the boot up sequence to stop it putting too much power through the regulator at boot, so stop the actual radio transceiver and the Wi-Fi side of things kicking in too much as it boots up, and that means then that the receiver is able to actually go through the boot sequence and then work absolutely fine. This firmware is not a fix for the problem, it is a workaround, but it is fantastic that the ExpressLRS community have done that for people with it. So it does mean if you do have one, just updating to that firmware will get past the issue for you, but it is advised to probably get the receiver replaced, but we'll have a look at it now under the microscope as well. Okay, so looking at this receiver under the microscope, again, looking at this side of the board. Now, this is the RF transceiver side of the board, where we've got the SX1280, we've got the 52 megs clock, we've got the UFL connection, and everything else. Now, on the other one, this side looked absolutely fine. There was no problems on it at all. And looking at this one here now, everything looks exactly as you would expect it to be. The QFN is soldered perfectly all the way around. There's no pads there with any issues. All the components look good. The soldering looks fine around the connections, and everything looks as you would expect. What we'll do, we'll just get in a little closer just to make sure that we can see in. Yeah, absolutely fine. No concerns at all. Now, on the last one we did, the issues were on the other side of the PCB. It wasn't this side, it was on this side. And this was the side that we were seeing some issues. So, hopping in again and just having a look externally first of all, we can see some stuff. I'm not going to say that I can't, because I can see some components aren't quite aligned the way I would like to see them. However, that isn't to say that there's a quality issue with the board, because this is an extremely small board and it's not the easiest thing to manufacture. So if we get in a little bit closer and have a look, going in there, we can start to see some of the components. So starting at the top left, we've got the LED, all looks fine. We've got resistor to that, another resistor there. There is a capacitor up here, which is a little off, but it is soldered. So it is correctly soldered, but it's just not quite settled on the pad. We do have two more capacitors here, which go into here and coming off this pin here. Now they are linked there. I assume that is correct. I will double check that. I can't see the pads are linked, but I'm going to assume they are, the way it looks, and we're not going to worry too much about that. We've got that capacitor there. Now that was the one that was not soldered correctly on my first board. However, that all looks absolutely fine. Moving along over here, again, a couple more caps. Not quite straight, but all fine. Looking down here, this all looks good. This one was what wasn't straight last time. And yeah, so from a soldering point of view on the components, looking around the board, everything looks okay. We've got the Wi-Fi antenna up here as well. Now over here, we've got the regulator, and this is the SESG, which I believe is the correct regulator. The one to look for is if you've got a regulator that says SDG. So this one says SESG, and the one that's underspec'd is SDG. However, the latest version 1.2 firmware resolves that. Now, the next thing I just want to look into is how the QFN is soldered, because that was an issue on my other one as well. So let's just get this so we can see it properly. All looks fine on that side. All looks good on that side there. Again, that looks fine. Got no concerns there. And that one looks good too. So overall, it is looking much better from a quality point of view than the first one I had. Yes, a couple of the components aren't quite straight, but that doesn't change how the device performs in real world use. What's important is this time, everything is correctly soldered on, everything looks in place, everything looks where it should be. So I'm not expecting any issues with this one at all. Since making the first bit of that video, I've actually had another 2 HappyModel receivers turn up, another EP1 and an EP2. Now, that receiver I just showed you was the replacement for the faulty one that I had originally. However, HappyModel have actually directly sent me another 2 to look at as well, another EP1 just like we had now, and an EP2 which has the built-in antenna. So what I'm going to do now is get both of these out, get them under the microscope because I haven't done it yet, and just have a look at these as well, just to give you guys a quick second overview of what we're like on quantity, because at the end of the day, by that, we've had 3 under the microscope and not 1, and that will give us a bigger picture of actually the quality of the units as well. So let's hop back under the microscope and have a look at both of these and see how they look as well. Okay, so we're going to take a look at the EP2 first of all. Now, the EP2 has the built-in antenna, which you can see here. So if I just show you in a little bit more detail, you can see that the antenna is soldered on that point there, and then it comes up around all the way around the outside, and it's wrapped around a bit like a braid, but it almost looks like it's sprayed on, actually. It doesn't go all the way through, because you can see it's not on the inside, so it is on the outside surface. A form of either metallic paint or something like that is what it is, and it goes all the way around up to there, rather than have the UFL connector. Now, if we just have a look at the board and have a look at some of the component layout on this side, first of all, we've got our 1280, which is our chipset on this side. We've then got our clock here, obviously the antenna. We've got the filter for the antenna as well, and we've got a couple of other components. If we look straight away, we can see the odd misaligned component. So over here, you can see that one there isn't quite right. That one there is a little bit off too, but nothing spectacular. If we get in a bit closer now and start diving in and having a closer look, this will allow us just to look at things in a bit more detail. So again, that all looks fine, got no concerns there, that all looks good, no problems there. Again, we do have a slight misalignment on a component there, but nothing spectacular, nothing that's going to cause any issues with the functioning of the product. Now, if we just have a look at the solder balls on the QFN as well, so what I'm going to do is just adjust the focus point so we can see them correctly as I tilt the board up. So we can see on the side of the QFN, the soldering looks fine there. If we come around to this side, you can actually see that there's flux left on this one. If I just get in there, you can see that the flux flux is actually left around it. Now I will say this pad here doesn't look particularly great. Let me just get my brush on it a second. Okay, so I've cleaned the flux off a little bit there now, and you can see that one there definitely isn't great. There's barely any solder holding on that one, and I'll be honest, that one there is better, but it's a little bit the same. There's definitely a gap there on that one, but that one there is barely soldered. You know, it is catching, but it is only just. Let's spin the board over to the other side and just have a look around on this side of the board. Again, let's just get in nice and close so we can see it properly. There we go. So if we look up, we've got all of the components. Everything looks nice and straight on this side. So again, what we've got is our chipset, which is our ESP8285, which is our main chipset. We've got our voltage regulator here, which is an SETH. I'll have to go and look that one up. Component wise, everything looks good actually. I've got no complaints on this side at all. You can see the Wi-Fi antenna again up here, LED here as well. Again, if we tilt the QFN and just adjust the focus so we can see that a little bit better. All of the pads on the QFN look fine on that side. Bit dirty, but fine on that side. Although the QFN is actually slightly misaligned. It's a tad off. Just a tad. But you can actually see it. It's down towards the right-hand side on that, which means the pads on this side are a little bit extended out. Quite dirty from the manufacturing process. And then if we look on this side here, it's actually aligned fine on this side, so it's just that it's slightly kilted that way, I think it is. That's fine though, nothing spectacular. And again, these look nice, and we're a bit close on the pads that side there. Yeah, so if we look, the QFN is this way slightly. It's drawn forward slightly, which okay, it happens. But no, on this side, everything looks okay. I've got no problems with the quality at all. The issues really are on this side, and it is just around that one or two pads, although again we're a bit dirty. Where I clean it, it's clean obviously, as you can see there, but it's just on that one on that side there. So let's jump over and take a look at the other one. So looking around the EP1 on this side of the board, and this time has the UFL connector like we have on the first one. Again, overall, this looks very, very good. No problems here at all. Everything looks nicely aligned. I will say on this one, instantly, the cleaning and everything on this board is much better. You can see the solder around the QFN is much shinier on this one than the first one. If I pop the other one back under, you can see the cleanliness difference between the first board and the second board. You know, if you look there between there and there between there, it's substantially different. This one looks so much better, so much better. Completely clean around there. Yep, zero complaints on that side at all. Hopping over to this side of the board. So looking up at the top by the Wi-Fi antenna, everything looks good. Again, we've got that same regulator, is it? The SETH? Was it SETH on this one? I'm trying to remember. Yes, it was. So it's the same regulator as on the first one. Again, looking around at the components, everything looks good. Little bit of misalignment. Nothing shocking at all. Everything looks fine. What I'm going to do now is just refocus so we can have a look at the QFNs on this. Let's come up a tad. There we go. All looks spectacular. All looks good. All looks fine. And all looks fine to me. No issues with the soldering on this board at all. The overall quality on this board is much better It really is. Even compared to the EP2 here, you know, and you can see just the cleanliness difference. So if I just spin it over so it's the same on both sides and try and get both under the camera, under the microscope for you, it's not going to be easy. Let me just come out a bit more. Unfortunately, I'm testing a new camera here on the microscope and the focus isn't great on this, if I'm honest. I'm probably going to be going back to the first camera. But as you can see there, yeah, overall, the quality on the EP1 is better. So that's 2 EP1s I've had now where I'm happy with and one I wasn't. And whilst there's nothing on this EP2 I think I'm very concerned about, it doesn't appear to be up to the same quality as the first one. Okay, so to wrap this one up and just give you my thoughts on these HappyModel receivers. So just to go back over where I'm at. So I had an initial EP1 which wasn't manufactured correctly. That was replaced with another EP1 which was very good. No issues with that at all. We have a third EP1 which is absolutely fine. In fact, I'd say this is the best one I've seen. And then we've got the first EP2 that I've seen where there is an issue around the soldering on one of the pads on the QFN and the board's just a bit dirty. A couple of misaligned components on both, but that's nothing that's going to affect it in use. Now, when I put that first video out talking about the HappyModel receivers, I got quite a lot of feedback of people saying, oh, I use them without any problems. I've had one or two faulty ones. And the consensus, as I said at the start, seems to be if you get a good one, it's absolutely fine. But for me, having looked at a number of different manufacturers' receivers now, including Beta FPV, Namimno, and one or two others I haven't talked about yet, I have to say, the Flywoo I have discussed, I think it's a bit of a mixed bag with the HappyModel ones compared to what I've seen on the others. Now, to be fair, I have seen more HappyModel ones than any of the others as well. So it isn't a fair comparison to say all of the others are better, because if I look at here, we've got 2 good EP1s, 1 bad, and 1 mixed EP2. What I would say is, from what I've seen on the others, the build quality does look better overall, but to be fair, most of them are more expensive as well. Where I think I'm at with these receivers is they are budget, they are low cost. If they work, I think they'll work great, but I think the quality control is a little bit lacking, and there's probably room for improvement on the QA after manufacturing to make sure what goes out is very good. What I do know though is HappyModel are extremely on top of feedback. They are talking with the dev team all of the time, so I'm sure they will keep improving things with this. They have a very good reputation within the ExpressLRS community as well, so I'm sure that we will see improvements on the quality overall. What I would personally say is, if you're flying something where you want to make sure there's a level of quality, I would probably be looking at the Namimno, maybe. It just felt better. It's bigger, don't get me wrong, but if you're looking for the smallest, lightest possible receiver to shove in a race quad that you're not flying any more than in a field where you can see it, then absolutely check one of these out. I think they'll be absolutely fine, no problem at all. The Flywoo did seem a bit better in my opinion, but again, I've only got a sample rate of 1 on one of them, so it's not really fair to say 100% that it is better. Here and now today, I don't really have any issues with them. I haven't powered these two up to test them yet. I will do that now, and if there is any issues, I'll bolt a bit on the end of the video. If there aren't any issues and I don't mention it, you can assume there was no problems on that side of things at all. So let's just get that out of the way before we do the end. So that's it from me. I hope you found the video interesting. If you have, please do consider hitting the subscribe button. Don't forget to hit the little bell next to it as well. That way you'll get updates on any new videos. If you want to support the channel to allow us to keep making content like this, please do check out our Patreon account as well as buy me a coffee, and come over and say hi on my Discord server. It is up and running. It's there. It's free. Say hello, ask some questions, and if there's anything I can help you with, I will always try to do so. That's it from me. Stay safe, and I will speak to you guys again soon.